That's what I like to see. Pockets getting hit hard, bro. Hard. Because somebody need to hold these players accountable for the stupidity they have been putting out.
Goes to the locker room and tweets out white privilege in the middle of the game. Now, here's the kicker to me. A flagrant 2 has to be contact that can lead to an injury that looks excessive. DiJonai, it was about as excessive as possible. If there was any evidence of there being white privilege, this was not it. What the hell do y'all think?
Now, it states here, Reebok is reportedly dropping their endorsement for DiJonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham.
That reported Reebok angle is what changes the stakes immediately, because now this is no longer just about how people judged one flagrant foul on Sophie Cunningham. It is about whether the backlash can actually follow DiJonai Carrington off the court and into her business relationships. Welcome back to Court T, because the real question is whether the noise around these clips stays online or starts costing her something tangible.
Look at this here. Reebok is reportedly dropping their endorsement for DiJonai Carrington after she attacked Sophie Cunningham. Okay, and a bunch of people are saying this is true. You know, I don't know, but here it says, perfect. Good job, Reebok, for having a morals clause in her contract and enforcing it by pulling it. Carrington is a bully that the league apparently is protecting. Wake up, WNBA, before someone really gets hurt. You'll get sued because we Americans won't stand for this abuse. Do you agree with me?
And notice how that second clip carefully lands on the word reportedly, because that matters. People are circulating claims that Reebok could cut ties with Carrington, while Sophie Cunningham's name is being mentioned in the same conversation. But none of that should be treated as confirmed until the company actually says so. Still, you can see why the rumor exploded. Cunningham is the player at the center of the foul controversy, so putting those two names on opposite sides of an endorsement story creates exactly the kind of sports marketing twist that spreads fast. A week ago, almost nobody would have expected a hard foul to evolve into questions about sponsorship money. Now, that is precisely where the conversation has gone.
That is just a hard hit. That's definitely going to be upgraded, I think, to a flagrant 2, Ryan.
I think that is going to be a flagrant 2. There is wind up, there is follow through, there's potential for injury.
Without
Sophie Cunningham in a vulnerable position in the air.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question.
WNBA player DiJonai Carrington of the Chicago Sky was ejected after a flagrant 2 foul on Sophie Cunningham in last night's WNBA game. As you saw from the video, Sophie was going for a fast break layup when DiJonai decided it would be a good idea to go after her head instead of the ball. So that obviously prompted the flagrant 2. The referees take a look at it and she was ejected, and a lot of people are calling for her suspension after this.
That broadcast breakdown was unusually direct. Wind up, follow through, potential for injury, Cunningham vulnerable in the air, and then the officials upgraded the play to a flagrant 2 and ejected Carrington. That is the visual people are reacting to, and it matters because endorsement deals are never based only on basketball production. Reebok originally signed Carrington because brands want athletes who can sell a story as well as a shoe. Talent, personality, visibility, and a public image customers want to associate with. The logo does not disappear when the final buzzer sounds. Every viral clip, every quote, every argument online becomes part of what a sponsor has to evaluate. And once the conversation around an athlete starts shifting from performance to controversy, marketing departments pay attention quickly.
Because of the timeline of everything, and because of, if you want to call it the jealous nature, the legitimate hatred for somebody because of what they believe in and because of what they look like and because of how popular they are, I could say it's a targeted attack.
Yeah, oh, clearly. I mean, I think most people believe that.
But then on top of that, you know, it's not only white privilege she puts out there, she puts the next, in our next post, she puts the game date of the next time they're going to play the Fever.
Yep.
I mean, that's almost like, it feels to me like a...
Then you heard the accusation become even more serious, with that clip connecting the phrase white privilege to Carrington's post and even pointing to the date of another Fever matchup. That is where interpretation starts doing a lot of work, so you have to separate what is visible from what people are inferring. What is visible is that multiple controversial moments involving Carrington were being replayed and scrutinized within a short stretch. What people disagree about is what those moments say about intent. That distinction matters. Once viewers begin putting several clips beside one another, however, the argument stops being about one isolated possession and becomes a debate over whether they are seeing ordinary physical basketball or something more reckless. And the next clip only adds fuel to that debate.
DiJonai with another signature move yet again versus the Valks tonight.
And then she put both hands up.
Damn. What is she doing with her left hand? Look at her left hand. Just boom, let me just poke you in the eye real quick. What is this goofball, uncoordinated individual doing, poking somebody in the eye with their hands up? Hands up. Dude, this is so bad. Hands up. Swipe for the ball with our right hand while poking the player in the eye with the left hand. You really can't make this stuff up. Hey,
that left-hand contact in the Valkyries clip is exactly why the word reckless keeps surfacing in these discussions. Physical basketball is part of the sport. Nobody serious is asking defenders to stop competing or avoid contact altogether. But viewers draw a line between aggressive defense and plays they believe create unnecessary risk, and once several clips circulate close together, perception hardens quickly. One moment can be dismissed as bad timing. Several moments invite people to look for a pattern, even when intent itself cannot be proven from a replay. And if you are a sponsor, that distinction almost becomes secondary, because the public reaction to the footage is what reaches your customers. That is when a basketball debate starts turning into a brand management problem.
Instead, DiJonai decided to post from the locker room on Threads saying white privilege. Cunningham herself admitted that she's been ejected for the exact same thing before and deserved it. But yet that card got played in seconds before the ejection even cooled off. Now, a sitting state attorney general just told an entire professional league that he will treat their hardest fouls as criminal assault. Florida doesn't even have a WNBA team. This is literally a warning, not a jurisdiction, people. You fucking clotheslined her. And I would be saying this about anybody, regardless of what the fuck they look like. Literally, right when the WNBA was really starting to become exciting.
And then came the locker room post using the words white privilege while the foul controversy was still fresh. That single phrase widened the argument instantly, because instead of everyone debating only whether the play deserved a flagrant 2, people began arguing about what Carrington meant, what she was referring to, and whether others were connecting dots she never intended to connect. You can agree with her explanation or reject it, but the communication problem is obvious. Once a statement that loaded goes out in the middle of a controversy without much context, the audience fills in the blanks itself, fast. That is why this story moved beyond basketball so quickly, and it also explains why Carrington's later attempts to clarify the meaning became almost as important as the original post.
Coach loves us. She didn't see the clip. You know what, DiJonai, she is a hell of a player. She's a great defender. And so she coached her for I don't know how many years up in Connecticut. So give her flowers, and she didn't see it, and that's okay. Me and Steph are great. Steph is great with all of us. And so it's really the outside noise that's trying to distract us, but we're good.
What Sophie Cunningham said there is important because she did not attack Stephanie White or turn the situation into a personal war. She called Carrington a great defender, acknowledged White's history coaching her in Connecticut, and said the outside noise was trying to create a problem that did not exist inside the Fever locker room. That response undercuts the easiest version of this story, where everybody is supposedly choosing enemies and escalating the feud. Cunningham has mostly kept her public comments measured while the internet does the fighting for her, and that contrast has helped shape the optics. Online, some critics have gone much further, directly pressuring Reebok and describing Carrington as a liability. Those posts are not company statements and they are not proof of a canceled deal, but they show you the pressure campaign a brand now has to monitor. Once customers start tagging the sponsor instead of only debating the player, the conversation has entered a completely different phase.
DiJonai Carrington is on the brink of being dropped by Reebok, and let me tell you what, man, this is not good for DiJonai Carrington at all. And then you have this going on as well. Thousands demand Reebok drop DiJonai Carrington after brutal attack on Sophie Cunningham. Hold her accountable. I firmly support Reebok dropping DiJonai Carrington's endorsement. Okay, so a lot of people are, you know, getting behind this thing, and DiJonai Carrington is on the brink of potentially losing millions of dollars with sponsorship. Here it says breaking thousands of people are calling Reebok to drop. This thing is everywhere, man. This thing is everywhere. So
that clip makes the scale of the pressure clear. Thousands of people are being described as demanding that Reebok drop Carrington, while claims about potentially losing major sponsorship money are spreading everywhere. Again, the verified part and the rumored part need to stay separate. A wave of public demands is real as a reaction. It does not automatically prove Reebok has made the decision people are demanding. But from a corporate perspective, even the campaign itself matters. When customers start attaching purchasing decisions to an athlete's endorsement, the issue reaches the people responsible for brand reputation and sales. That does not mean a boycott threat instantly dictates policy. It does mean executives have to evaluate whether the controversy is temporary noise or something capable of damaging the relationship between the company and its consumers. And that makes Carrington's explanation of the white privilege post even more important.
Comment. She said she never once claimed that the assessment of the foul was white privilege. That was your assumption. All I could say is, if you are posting during the game, is my understanding, it doesn't take a genius to connect the two together. Sure, it's very vague, and that's kind of the criticism of this whole thing. It's a vague critique that has no relevance to what transpired. There was nothing about what transpired that had anything to do with white privilege. It's really that simple, right? I don't got nothing personally against her. I hate that her game doesn't have her in the spotlight right now, because she had been playing pretty well. She had the Sky on a 3-1 record with her returning. This is just an L across the board for her, and she just continues to double down on it. And I like what Acho said. The rarest W for him. He said, the burden is on you for being clear, direct, and easy to understand. She left so much room for people to take that a million different directions. People that were supporting her were taking it a million different directions than she probably meant. And her inability to just chalk it up to, hey, I was frustrated, I had a lot of things on my mind, and I post that, I shouldn't have made that post. That would have gotten her a lot more grace. But doubling down on this nonsense, I don't get it. I don't get why people support it, but hey.
That distinction from Carrington is the center of the next argument. She said she never claimed the foul itself was an example of white privilege, while critics responded that posting those words during the game naturally invited people to connect them. That is the communication gap she has struggled to close. Her defenders can fairly say people should not assign her a meaning she says she did not intend. Her critics can fairly ask why the original post was so vague if it concerned something completely separate. What you cannot do is turn an interpretation into a confirmed motive. Carrington had also been playing well after returning, with the Sky going 3-1 in the stretch referenced in that clip, which makes the timing even more frustrating from a basketball standpoint. Instead of her play becoming the story, the explanation of a social media post swallowed the spotlight. And because the clarification did not settle the question, analysts kept pressing the same point. If it was not about the foul, what exactly was it about?
If you are going to suggest that we should think critically about a statement white privilege when you at the Indiana Fever, you didn't give us much to think critically about. We, the interpreter, now have to try to figure out what exactly were you talking about? Well, common sense would deduce that you were talking about fouling a white individual and getting ejected for fouling that white individual. Now, as I said on social media and I will say in real life, if that is not what you were talking about implying, then that's on me. I will stand down and I will stand corrected. But the last thing I must again reiterate, so many people have asked you amongst others, well then what are you talking about? We still have yet to get a response. All that DiJonai, you have told us is, hey, I wasn't talking about the foul. Well then, what were you talking about? I refuse to believe on behalf of everybody that is confused, we're not all idiots and you are the one genius in the room. That's just not the case. So I say this with all respect. I respect your intelligence. I respect your response. And you currently on the court hooping, so respect to you. But there's still a lot of errors in your thought process and thought pattern.
That is exactly what the next speaker kept asking. If the white privilege post was not referring to the foul or the ejection, then give people enough context to understand what it did mean. From a business perspective, clarity matters because sponsors hate ambiguity during a controversy. They originally pay for talent and reach, but they keep paying because they believe the athlete remains a useful representative of the brand. When public trust becomes uncertain, companies start reassessing risk whether fans ever see that process or not. That brings us back to the most intriguing rumor in the entire story, Sophie Cunningham being floated as a possible alternative. Claims have circulated that Reebok could somehow work around Cunningham's existing Adidas relationship and bring her into some kind of partnership, although that is an unusual arrangement and should remain firmly in the reported, not confirmed category. If anything remotely like that is actually being discussed, it would show how aggressively a company might be willing to respond to public pressure. But until Reebok or the athletes confirm it, that part remains speculation, not a completed deal.
Good.
Thousands of people are calling Reebok to drop. This thing is everywhere, man. This thing is everywhere. So DiJonai Carrington, man, on the brink of losing it all. And you just did too much. I mean, a flagrant foul was enough, but the whole white privilege thing, nasty and uncalled for.
And that tiny transition in the clip does not add any new evidence, which is exactly why you should focus on what the larger claim would mean if it were ever confirmed. A brand making room for an athlete who already has ties to a competing shoe company would be an unconventional move, not something you assume happens casually. But we also should not reverse engineer private corporate numbers from an online rumor. What we can say is that endorsement contracts routinely make public image important, and sponsors across sports pay attention when an athlete becomes the center of sustained negative coverage. One controversy can affect more than one relationship because every other potential partner is watching how the first company responds. That ripple effect is why this matters even if Reebok ultimately changes nothing. Carrington is not only dealing with the league's judgment of the plays, she is dealing with how the entire episode looks to businesses deciding whether her name helps or hurts their own.
Hey, the WNBA is the gift that keeps on giving. The latest is a clothesline foul on Sophie Cunningham by DiJonai Carrington, the woman that went on an incredibly racist rant against cab driver and, of course, knocked the hell out of Caitlin Clark from behind her rookie year. But that's okay. I'm not mad at that kind of basketball. That's all good. But the problem is after. It was white privilege. I just want you to think logically and please comment on this. White girl goes to the basket. African-American woman knocks her on her ass, clothesliner, knocks her down, upgraded to a flagrant 2. Black girl kicked out, and it's all because of white privilege. Let me know what you think. I think it's typical WNBA stupidity, and I love it.
Then the final commentator brought the argument right back to the clothesline on Cunningham and the white privilege controversy afterward, which gets to why this story became so much larger than a normal flagrant foul. Hard fouls happen constantly and disappear from the news cycle almost immediately.
I think that there's so much good going on in the WNBA. I think that basketball is being played at the highest level it's ever been. I think our team in specific, we are breaking history right now with the amount of points that we're scoring on back-to-back games. I think the Minnesota game, there's just so much distraction. I think the WNBA media, all we ever do is cover everything except basketball. And it's like, what are we doing? There's so much. Like, you can talk about other things. I think those are great stories. I think it shows fans, who people are outside of the court. But I also think we got to keep the main thing. And I think when it comes to the Minnesota game, I think there is so much distraction, but like the matchup between Miles and Kelsey was phenomenal. Our team, that game in particular was a great game. And so I think that there's a lot to be said, and I'm going to let people just do the speaking for themselves. But for me, I want to get back to basketball.
And Sophie Cunningham's own point there may be the best place to land this. She said there is so much good basketball happening in the WNBA. Her team has been putting up historic scoring stretches, and yet coverage keeps getting dragged toward everything except the game. She even pointed to the Minnesota matchup and the Miles versus Kelsey battle as examples of basketball worth discussing, before saying she wanted to keep the main thing the main thing. That makes the Carrington situation almost a perfect illustration of the problem. A few heated moments and one ambiguous post can overwhelm everything happening on the floor, and now even an unconfirmed sponsorship rumor is generating more conversation than the games themselves. So Carrington is left waiting to see whether this remains an internet storm or becomes an actual business consequence, while Cunningham is publicly trying to push the attention back toward basketball. Which side do you think ultimately defines this story? Does Reebok eventually make a move because the backlash became too loud? or does the controversy fade once the games take center stage again? Keep following Court T and subscribe if you want to see which answer we actually get.